You're listening to Mile High Insiders with Nick Kendell and Luke Patterson. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com for all things Broncos. Now, it's time to find out what's going on behind the walls of UC Health Training Center.
We're letting it breathe until I get the thumbs up from Buwana that we are rolling, and there it is. Buwana gives us the thumbs up, and that means we are kicking off today with Saturday night's episode of Mile High Insiders. I am Nick Kendell, joining you today with Luke Patterson. Luke, how are you doing, bud?
Dude, I am pumped, man. It's getting cold here in the Mile High City. We are just hours. We're hours away from the game tomorrow against the Chiefs. I can't wait, man. I mean, it's just football season is the best season. I'm cooking up some green chili already for the game tomorrow, Nick. I'm ready for this game. I'm pumped.
Yeah, me too. I mean, it's been 9 games since the Broncos have beaten the Chiefs, but this feels about as good of a chance as this team's had in a bit. Obviously, not having much of the home fans, that presence there is going to be a bit of a bummer for the Broncos, but Drew Lock's back. They're getting back a lot of bodies. And, regardless of the outcome of the game, I'm really excited to see how the Broncos match up against the reigning Super Bowl champs. But before we get going any further, we need to let you guys know that tonight's live stream podcast is brought to you by sportsbetting.com. Broncos country gambling is now legal in the great state of Colorado. And here's what makes sportsbetting.com a no-brainer for all sports fans. They have sharp odds and low juice. They have in-house bookmakers. They don't use a third-party provider for odds. They have reduced juice and the best prices, hassle-free bonuses with a one-time rollover. They have 24/7 live customer support, so a real person always answers your calls. And here's the kicker: at sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle, you can get a 100% risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. Not just one bet, but all of your bets. Play for a week, and if your losses exceed your winnings at the end of the week, sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle will cover you for 100% of the difference up to $1,000 with a one-time rollover. So head on over to sportsbetting.com, www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle. That's www.sportsbetting.com/Mile High Huddle and capitalize on a risk-free week of sports betting up to $1,000. What are you waiting for? Also, guys, make sure you find us on Twitter at Luke Patterson LP and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. If you are joining us today via YouTube, do us a huge favor, like, subscribe, and share this show. And on Facebook, click those thumbs up. All those can really help us. Go to iTunes, 5-star rating and a review. All of that can really help us reach more people going forward. Also, Mile High Huddle is an affiliate of Sports Illustrated.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Listen up, Broncos country. Coors Hard Seltzer is not your average seltzer. Rooted in Coors' long history of sustainability, their brand was inspired by a generation that wants to do good in the world, that has a mission to restore America's rivers. Never before has it been so easy to make an impact and make a difference and do good in the world. Coors Hard Seltzer is launching the world's easiest volunteer program. Whatever you're doing, simply by cracking open a can of Coors Hard Seltzer, you're volunteering. Our waterways, guys, they are at risk. 80% of America's rivers are drying up, and through a partnership with Change the Course, Coors Hard Seltzer is helping to protect and restore America's rivers. Each 12-pack of Coors Hard Seltzer restores 500 gallons of fresh water to U.S. rivers. Wrap your brain around that. And the communities that depend on them. It's so important. The results? 1 billion, that's with a B, gang, gallons of water restored to 16 river basins across the U.S., including the Colorado River. And that's just year one. And here's what's great about Coors Hard Seltzer: 4 refreshing flavors, 1 cool cause. Enjoy naturally flavored black cherry, mango, lemon lime, and grapefruit. And the specs are in, gang. Coors Seltzer is 4.5% ABV and only 90 calories.
Chad, I got to say, for last Sunday's slate of NFL games, I picked up a Coors Hard Seltzer and mango. Loved it. This week, I picked up a Coors Hard Seltzer and black cherry. Loved it even more. So, guys, whether you want to support the cause or like the flavors, you won't be disappointed with a Coors Hard Seltzer.
Amen. So join the world's easiest volunteer program by simply drinking Coors Hard Seltzer. You can volunteer to restore America's rivers. You buy Coors Hard Seltzer, you help restore 500 gallons of water into America's rivers. It is that simple. Visit CoorsSeltzer.com to find Coors Seltzer near you. That's CoorsSeltzer.com.
For every 12 packs sold through 8/31/2021, Coors will purchase services from Change the Course to restore 500 gallons of fresh river water. Details at CoorsSeltzer.com. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
So, obviously, we hinted at it in the beginning of the show. It's Chiefs week. The Broncos have not beaten the Chiefs since week 2, 2015, when Jamal Charles gifted the Broncos and Bradley Roby. That 2015 season was just a hell of a ride as it was, but man, that was a great game. Since then, the Broncos have not really done very well against the Kansas City Chiefs, and it is what it is. The Broncos owned the Chiefs for many, many years, but you know what goes around comes around. The Chiefs have the upper hand right now, but game going to Denver, anything can happen.
Yeah, man, 5 years is way too long to go with the broom, right? I mean, the Chiefs have been taking the Broncos out behind the woodshed with the broom and beating them, not sweeping them, beating them. And it's just been embarrassing, man. It's been something that the Broncos have had in their craw for years. Yeah. So much so that we have theorized that a lot of their NFL draft moves and selections suggested that they want to go toe-to-toe with the Kansas City Chiefs if they want to be playoff contenders. So it's really kind of put up or shut up now. It's seeing the first new look Broncos against the world championship team in the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think we got a lot of good matchups that we got to get to. But first, we got news, Nick. I thought the Sylvester Williams, Tib Jernigan defensive line cuts, that was going to be it, on Thursday. And then here we go on Friday. The Broncos are making some Broncos country a little bit mad, anxious, eager, by releasing this defensive back, Devontae Bosby, Nick, a guy that, man, Broncos country didn't know why he wasn't on this team to begin with as an active guy, let alone somebody that should be getting a lot of reps. What do you make of the release, cornerback Devontae Bosby, no longer a Denver Bronco?
Well, Bosby obviously seems like a guy that the fan base likes a lot more than this coaching staff. They were willing this last offseason to not put a tender on him and to let him potentially walk, brought him back, didn't make the squad the first time, brought him back, and now he's off the teams again. So that is, obviously he's flashed some coverage ability, but there is a little bit of a gambler in his ability as well. You'll see him go for the ball instead of making a secure player. And with the Broncos defense, with so much bend, don't break, relying on everybody to do their jobs, sometimes that's a little bit of an issue. And also that means that you're replacing Bosby with Boye coming back, which is a huge get. I mean, I know that's let's not get too upset about how we got there. The big thing is that Boye is back, and this Broncos secondary should be as good as they've been all season. But Bosby news, I would say it's a little bit surprising. The only thing, and I haven't heard anything, I know this is the Mile High Insiders, I haven't heard anything as to why. The thing that I wrap my head around is it's got to be special teams ability. Devontae Harris, there's also, of course, Bassey, some guys who tackle much better. Oh, and we got Holden Adams coming in. Special teams. That's got to be the big reason why. And Bosby, he's long. He can move around a little bit, but as far as the tackling goes, that's been an issue with him. So we always complain about the Broncos special teams, and we shouldn't get too upset when they make a move that probably directly correlates with special teams.
Yeah, man, it's one of those things where there's just so many areas of improvement that the Denver Broncos are trying to stack on to their team just to be a competitive team in the division with the Kansas City Chiefs. You got to look at how the Raiders beat the Chiefs. You got to look at how the Bills played the Chiefs, played them tight a little bit, and then just kind of, unwound. But I think it's one of those things, Nick, where there's so much more news that we've got to get to. I want to say what's up to some of our folks in here real quick, because I see folks up here just they're upset, Nick. They're pissed. They're saying, come on, Bosby, Richie's up here saying Bosby made plays. Why is he not here? We're 24 hours away from kickoff, and we can't seem to get a defensive back that Broncos country very much so likes. So obviously AJ Bouye coming in, that makes a lot of sense, right? Miles Mixon coming in, giving us that go Broncos. And John, I'm going to let you go ahead and take that, brother, and get our community up in the feed. But Nick, man, a lot to get to. Devontae Bosby, I'm surprised. I really am.
Also it comes back to the Broncos right now, how their fit is that the Harris and Bosby are younger. They tackle better. There's more special teams ability there. Then you have a guy like Duke Dawson, who is much more of a hybrid player. He's a nickel/safety. So, hey, Big E Bronco, thank you very much. What's up?
And Nick, I liked what you said first, just to interrupt. You described Devontae Bosby as a gambler. That's a term that I hadn't really thought of. Can you Tell us more about what that means to you for a cornerback in Vic Fangio's scheme. Why does Vic Fangio not like that gambler cornerback in Devontae Bosby? Take us inside the head of the grouchy old Vic Fangio and why he didn't want Devontae Bosby. Other than AJ Bouye, you're describing him as a gambler. What does that mean?
Well, we saw it last week. There's a few plays where obviously some guys gamble and they win. Aqib Talib was a gambler, but in this scheme, with the integrity of the back guys, whoever it be on the defensive play call, you have to be able to do your job. And if you mess up because you are covering a space rather than a guy,
yes, it's
off to the races. So we saw that with Bosby last week. There was one where he kind of reached across and missed it rather than going with a secure wrap up, maybe doing a Michael Ojemudia, and the guy catches the ball, but guess what? The play is not over. Go attack that ball, even though it's in his frame. So we haven't seen that so much with Boye. Boye is just a little bit less of a lesser tackler. And also I would say he's almost a pure boundary guy in terms of his skill set. So that's why a guy like Duke Dawson and Sang Bassey are more likely to stick on the roster, because you have Boye coming back. He's a boundary guy. You have Michael Ojemudia. He's a boundary guy. And Devontae Harris is a boundary guy. So again, cornerback isn't just cornerback. It's kind of matters how those guys fit. And I wouldn't be, again, surprised. We've already seen Bosby kick around 2 times this year. This is the 3rd time. Sure. Other teams, maybe somebody will pick him up, but like the other teams have had chances 2 times now. I think that I'm okay with them willing to risk him being picked up by another team, especially with Boye coming back. Now, if he gets hurt again, then you were going to be in trouble either way. But I don't think it's as big of a news. Bosby has flashed, but I don't think that I know we're here to kind of question Donatel and Fangio, but who is anybody to question Donatel and Fangio when it comes to defensive backs? So I tip my hat off to those 2 old coaches there. I think they probably made the right decision, and I think Bosby will still be retained by the Broncos, but on the practice squad.
Yeah, and they certainly surprised me because I was willing to write off Bryce Callahan, Nick, and that's someone that you were just talking about. Just a quick flashback. Bryce Callahan seemed to always be bit by the injury bug, couldn't get out there as a Denver Bronco, and he's been playing very well on the perimeter. Very well. I personally like him in the slot best, but I understand with the Bouye injury and your team being the way they are, you've had to move him out there on the perimeter where he's actually performed well. So I'm very, very impressed with Bryce Callahan. So to your point, Nick, you definitely have to give Fangio credit after that New England game. I don't want to get into the leftovers of that game because we are just hours away from the Chiefs, but I think it comes down to the theory. If you're on defense against the Kansas City Chiefs, right? It's one of those things. Do you sit back and try to bend but not break, or do you send the house? Well, I don't think you're going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs with stellar defensive back play. I think I'd rather take away the run game, considering that the Kansas City Chiefs went out this offseason and decided to get a run game. I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire has rushed for more rushing yards, I think, in the last 4 games, than the Chiefs did all season last year. So it's very important for the Broncos to try to look at the Chiefs and figure out that the linebacker position is very valuable for the Broncos. And a little bit of news there with that linebacker. It looks like, we got Ryan coming in here real quick. Do we need to get to some supers? Let's get to Ryan. Yeah. Ryan's coming in the house. Ryan Steiner with a $5 super. What's up, Ryan? Who else thinks that, I can't see what that emoji is.
It's a lock. It's a lock.
That Drew Lock is going to Drew Lock is going to light it up. Man, Ryan's thinking Drew Lock's going to light it up. KJ Hamler's back. Noah Fant's back.
Ding, ding, ding.
Jerry Jeudy. There's some guy named Jerry Jeudy still on this team. Tim Patrick, back-to-back career games, Nick. Ryan thinks Drew Lock's going to light it up. What say you?
I think Drew Lock will have a good game, but I think it's going to be much like last week where you're going to see flashes of brilliance. Hopefully his teammates don't let him down this week, but also you're going to see some low-level plays as well where you're going to wonder, hey, why is he using improper mechanics with his base? What was he seeing there in that read? I mean, what is this going to be, his 8th career start in the NFL? And especially with the pressure of going up the Kansas City Chiefs. So again, Broncos have not beat in 9 straight games, and also trying to keep up with Patrick Mahomes. I think we're going to see some splash plays, some great brilliance from Drew Lock, but also there's going to be a few head scratchers. Just kind of comes to be expected with where he is right now in his overall career development.
Yeah, Ryan, I love the optimism because one thing I was kicking around a little bit with the guys this week was, if the Broncos are able to beat the Chiefs, right? And we'll get to our predictions at the end of the show. I think it would be a signature win for not only Vic Fangio, because he got one last week against the Patriots, but for Drew Lock. I mean, I would love to see, Drew Lock, the franchise QB in waiting, we hope, knock on wood, get the game ball against his former team, and the Kansas City Chiefs, the team that he grew up loving. And they never knew a Super Bowl until Pat Mahomes. You got to know it's in Drew Lock's cross. So I'm wondering and hoping, if dreams can become realities tomorrow, Nick. Am I crazy for that?
I mean, any given Sunday, and I think there's as much variable this season, given the state of the world, as we like to refer to what's going on right now on this show, that, any given Sunday, I think reigns even more true because it's wilder than ever. It's almost like college football where there's let's say the Big 12, anything can happen in the Big 12 because it's just a crazy league. So I think the Broncos definitely have a chance. And with Noah Fant coming back, maybe you get a big play. There's not much on tape with KJ Hamler. Tim Patrick and Jerry Jeudy should have a better week. I think overall the Broncos are definitely going to have a chance. So it's and Patrick Mahomes has looked a little bit more human this season than he has in years past. Honestly, the guy who's been unconscious so far this season is Russell Wilson, not as much Patrick Mahomes. So I think the Broncos got a chance. I really do. Any given Sunday, I know it's cliche, but I think they can keep it close. The defense looks well. Now, granted, I think this is a big point also. The Patriots and the Jets are two of the teams with probably some of the worst skill positions offensively as we've seen in the NFL so far this season. And now you're going against the Kansas City Chiefs, who have Mecole Hardman as the lesser of the passing weapons, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill. So again, we're going to find out a lot about this team. It's a measuring stick game. We can take a lot from it, even if the Broncos don't come out with a dub. So it should be an exciting game. And again, I said it last week after the Broncos pulled out and going into the game. It's so much more enjoyable when Drew Lock's playing. God, it's just night and day. The Broncos have a chance. And it hasn't felt like they've had a chance forever.
Exactly. And you know who else is playing? Veteran linebacker Nigel Bradham, making his Denver Bronco debut tomorrow. And Oscar coming in with a quick comment. Oscar, appreciate you. Love the is that Justin Simmons in there? Looks like I'm guessing Oscar wants that deal to get done for Justin Simmons, just based off of that one. So Oscar's coming in. It's all going to fall on Bradham versus Kelce. I love that. I had to pull that comment up, not only because it's newsworthy, but because Oscar knows football. Oscar knows football because it doesn't take, a committee to figure out that a tight end named Travis Kelce's been scorching the league for years, particularly the Broncos. How do the Broncos utilize the current linebackers? And if they decide to get Bradham in there, what's his matchup look like against Travis Kelce?
Well, Bradham does have more movement skills than Josie Jewell in the pass coverage game, but also, I hate to be that guy, there was a reason that he was available when the Broncos picked him up. I mean, this is a league that is pretty desperate for guys who can cover at that second level against tight ends and running backs. And the fact that Bradham was out there should probably be an indicator of the overall level of play. Now, he is going to contribute. There's no doubt about that, but he's not, I don't think everybody Bradham's up. Now we fixed the linebacker problem.
Right.
It's honestly, I'm thinking if you're concerned about, it's not just Travis Kelce, it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it's maybe even Le'Veon Bell against the linebackers. I think the solution we saw it tipped off last week. It's going 6 defensive back sets. And I know that you make yourself vulnerable against the run game there. Honestly, I'm kind of I differ than you because if Clyde Edwards-Helaire beats me this week, so be it. But I refuse. And sometimes you don't have a choice in the matter with this one, but I refuse to do 80-yard bombs. Patrick Mahomes running around, making explosive plays in the pass game. I mean, that's what makes the Chiefs so dangerous. So if Clyde Edwards-Helaire beats you, la-di-da, guess what? That probably means they're not ripping off huge touchdowns left and right, and you can keep the game close and kind of muddy things up, kind of slow things down. And I think that helps the Broncos a lot. So I'm okay with going 6 defensive back sets, and if that means the Chiefs audible to running the football, so be it. And especially with how good the Broncos defensive front, Mike Purcell, Shelby Harris, Alexander Johnson, Josie Jewell have been in clogging those run lines. I mean, they've been, say what you want about any of the units of the Broncos right now, the run defense has been very good.
Yeah, it's been one of those pick your poison things for the Broncos. That's how we're all looking at it right now, right? Do they want to pick their poison against the run or the pass? Getting a feeling from talking to some folks out there that the Broncos have some anger in this game. I wouldn't call it swag. I wouldn't call it confidence. I wouldn't call it bravado. They seem tired of it. They seem upset. They seem just ready to move on. And Chase is coming in here with a quick comment that I want to transition to because it's a position that I think Broncos country is definitely worried about. One of their favorite players, maybe they're a little worried about. Chase Wellner coming in. I wonder if we would have been better off having Glasgow play center instead. Lloyd Cushenberry. We all thought, including me, that Lloyd was probably a little bit more ready than he was to start in the NFL. And he's trying his best. He's having, I would say, a decent rookie campaign. He's getting a lot of experience, but you're seeing a lot of the left guard play suffer in Dalton Reisner. I know that he's beat up a little bit, and we'll talk about whether or not we think he's going to play, listed as questionable right now. But Nick, Graham Glasgow. I like what I'm seeing from Graham Glasgow on these power runs, especially to the left side.
The counters.
And some of those counters. Now, Chase is saying that Glasgow's versatility is just so good that maybe you can move him into center. He played tons of center in Detroit, as you know. What do you make of Graham Glasgow and Lloyd Cushenberry and that interior piece of the offensive line that we thought would be just locked down so strong and has had some cracks?
I think that you're probably not moving Cushenberry off center coming off his best game of his career so far. Again, state of the world right now, weird off season. It was going to take some time, but if anything, the Broncos benefited at all from that weird flux bye week that wasn't going to be a bye week. The offensive line had time to gel and work together, and they looked as good as they have all season last week. So I'm not moving Cushenberry right now. I think you're probably you might be hurting his confidence right when he's maybe finally starting to get it. You already have some concerns about the snap exchange between the center and Drew Lock, that's been issues both games that Lock has, or 2 of the 3 games Lock has started so far. And we're not sure about Reisner playing. So I think that would further throw in some instability and lack of chemistry in that area. So definitely it's an area where you could go, but I think right now you're going to have to live with Cushenberry there. And we got DeWalter coming in. Let's clap those Chiefs. I'm not going to say that last word, even though it makes me laugh. We're going to try to keep a little PG on there, even though it flashed on the screen.
DeWalter Drills, I love it so much, man. I love it. Yes, that's how I'm feeling. DeWalter Drills going Tim Patrick on him, letting him know how he feels. And we'll get into some of Timmy P's comments later. I want to hear from you guys in the MHH community. He is Nick Kendell at Nick Kendell MHH. I'm Luke Patterson at Luke Patterson LP. We got Bawana Beast on the ones and twos in the backs.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
So, Nick, I got to ask you real quick before we get to Jay. Those exchanges between Drew Lock and Lloyd Cushenberry, I can't figure out what's going on. I'm trying to go through and figure out if it's on the center, if it's on the quarterback. Honestly, Nick, it kind of looks like it's on both of them. What are you seeing with some of these FUBARs from the under center exchange with Drew Lock and Lloyd Cushenberry?
I mean, it's one of those things, unless you have eyes right on it in practice and you can zoom in. I mean, we have the all 22, but it's not always great. So
right. You can only get so far into that little box that no one wants to get really into. And maybe that's the problem for Drew Lock. He needs to get more in that box. But I sometimes
think he's trying to get into his drop before the ball is stable, like trying to read the defense. Where am I going? What am I doing with my footwork? And it's also, again, chemistry. So I think it's something that over time, I think it'll get better. Again, it's been a weird offseason. No rookie class probably has ever been as coming into a weird situation where they're not ready to go, and then a new offense on top of it. So I think it'll get better, but it is something to watch for. It's kind of like the red zone defense or the red zone offense too. Weird offseason. Red zone offense is as much about execution as any other part of the game, and you have to be precise. And the Broncos are suffering there right now. So I think it'll get better, but it's something that you're just going to have a little bit of perspective and patience as it hopefully gets better over time.
I agree. And we got Jay Boss coming in here. Jay Boss with a $4.99 super chat. What's up, Jay? Love the picture, man. Looks like you have some family, friends, maybe girlfriend, wife at a game. Hopefully we can get you back to those Broncos games very, very soon. If Drew Lock doesn't pan out, what are the chances that John Elway gives Dak Prescott a shout? He's coming off the knee injury, and he deserves to get paid. Denver Broncos for life. Jay Boss, man, you would be making Zach Kelberman's day. I can tell you that. If we could get Dak Prescott in here. Nick, some people have already written Drew Lock off. They say that these goofy injuries and his sloppy footwork, his poor mechanics, and I would call it sometimes arrogance in his strong arm, that is just ultimately going to be his downfall, and he's not the guy. Some people are saying go suck for Trevor Lawrence, start trading around. Hell, I've heard people say get Ryan Fitzmagic in here, right? Nick, what do you think about Dak Prescott? Obviously a nasty, nasty injury, but we've seen some former Cowboys come to the Broncos before. How about a quarterback?
I mean, if Drew Lock bottoms out this season or he suffers a third significant injury, I think it's something that we're going to need to have a conversation about. I mean, it's pretty obvious that Dak Prescott has become one of the top 10 best quarterbacks in football. I think that the Cowboys would be remiss to move on from him. I think the more we see of Andy Dalton, the more they're going to kind of realize, like, hey, you know, it's kind of like you had there's a girl you're texting with, and you had a good girlfriend, you know, but maybe she's not the one you want to marry. You break up for a bit, and you're talking with this other girl, and you're like, you look back and like look at the pictures, and I'm like, oh my god,
the one that got away.
Come back, babe. I'm so stupid.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's possible. They're dating. Broncos. Yeah, and the guy's like, oh, maybe I can do better. Maybe I want to be single for a little bit, and then you realize, man, I had it so good. I know maybe she's not Kate Upton.
Yes,
but damn. She's a 9 out of 10, and she cooks, and she's smart,
and she loves me, right? And Jay coming back in, I want to see Locke be the man, but I'm just curious. I'm just creating talk. No, and Jay, you're creating accurate talk and good talk because quarterback is the most important position in professional sports. I don't care if you're an NBA fan, hockey, baseball, whatever, man. It's quarterback. That's just the way it is. So until the Broncos find their quarterback, this will always be the conversation. Until Drew Lock pulls out a signature win. And Houston, that was a little bit of a rookie coming out party, right? Saying, hey, man, look, I think I could have been in the first round, but definitely hasn't shown us a lot since then. But we got to see some improvements. Now, I'm not a Drew Lock hater if I'm ripping on his mechanics. I'm just being honest. I just want to clear that up right now. Mechanics and footwork have been a problem since he was Missouri. I just watched his pro day from Missouri again, Nick, and that was one of the worst pro days I think I've ever seen. It was just one of those things where he was wild, letting the ball rip. So having those quarterback conversations are definitely valid. But we've got Ernie Mays coming in here. Believe in our Broncos. Any team can be beat with that Mile High magic. And Ernie, I completely agree with you. But Nick, I'm going to ask you straight up, man. I would feel a lot better about Broncos country being in that stadium, screaming and yelling and booing Mahomes, and not going to be the case. But you know what is going to be the case? Weather. It's getting cold here in the Mile High City. Some forecasts for some snow. I'm not sure if I buy into accumulation. I think it's going to be really, really cold. How much do you think the weather is going to affect this game for the Broncos and Chiefs?
Well, I think the wind is going to be medium at best. I've seen 10, 15 miles an hour. So honestly, that should help the passing games because the footing, the wide receivers know where they're going. So the defensive backs are actually the ones that can be put on skates. The biggest question is with how cold it is in the snow. We know Drew Lock, we saw him throw it around last year against the Chiefs in the snow. But Drew Lock, I mean, I know it's kind of, some people will roll their eyes, but the 9-inch hands, I mean, it's something that you got to worry about with the grip, especially with the thumb injury as well. I know that thumb injury was a while ago, but there has been some talk that thumb injury was not 100% even coming into this season. So it's something to watch, I think, for sure. I'm not super worried about it as long as it's not last year where I was at that Kansas City game last year, just literally inches of snow on my shoulder. But I think he's going to I think it's going to make an impact. The biggest thing, though, I think, is it helps the Chiefs. I really think it helps the Chiefs because they have an offense that has a lot of different types of weapons. They can space guys out and they can pick matchups. I mean, I think there was that touchdown last year in the first quarter against the Chiefs where Justin Simmons looked like he was standing in space. Or they were standing still because he just couldn't get footing and Tyreek Hill blew past him. So that's my biggest concern with the snow. I think it really, really does help the Chiefs' weapons versus the Broncos secondary.
I'm going to push back on that. I think it actually helps the Broncos defense a little bit because of all the dynamic playmakers that the Kansas City Chiefs have. They can go sideline to sideline. I know they can go north to south, but sometimes when Tyreek Hill's in that open field, he's not going to be cutting east to west as much as he's used to. I saw Pat Mahomes in a torrential downpour against the Buffalo Bills having some problems gripping the ball and throwing the ball. So Drew Lock, he's probably going to have those problems too, right? It's just one of those problems that the quarterback's going to have. What does worry me is that Chiefs offensive rushing game. However, when you've got Schwartz and two other offensive linemen out and most of your backups in Kansas City are now starters for your big guys, that's a very, very good thing for the Denver Broncos defense. I'm hoping that the Kansas City Chiefs decide that they want to test Vic Fangio a little bit and see if his defensive scheme that's been holding up well to the run can contain new running back Le'Veon Bell and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. That's a mouthful, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Terry Randall coming in, state of being, 9 days. Gonna see Duke bald.
Sounds like a bet.
It does sound like a bet.
What's
and also
up, Terry? We got to know about that bet. I got to know. I got to know about that bet with Duke, because Duke he's an ornery pirate, and he deserves to shave if he's going to lose that bet. And congratulations on that second granddaughter or grandson. I didn't get clarification to Duke Boyden. So, yeah, man, definitely sounds like a bet, Terry. Let us know, because we like those bets.
Yes, absolutely. I'm all about friendly bets, friendly wagers.
This is the Overtime Podcast Network.
Nick, if Harris is so good, why did Bosby play and do well? Well, Bosby did well against the Jets, first off.
It's the Jets.
Also, Harris was injured. So I think that's the biggest thing. Harris was active. Bosby was not on the team, not on the active roster, the game day roster. And Harris's injury was one of the reasons that Bosby was called up. So I think that's important to understand the path of how he got there.
I think you're right.
So, yep. No, I think the biggest thing for this game, I am worried about the explosive plays, and if the defensive backs can't get traction, that could be an issue for the Broncos, just because of the spacing games that the Chiefs can play with those weapons. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. And I don't know. I think my biggest concern also is the linebackers for the Broncos. I mentioned it on Twitter this week. The Broncos have been blitzing a heck of a lot with the linebackers and generating pressure. I think part of that is because Broncos haven't been generating very much organic pressure with just 4 guys. So they've needed to call pressure at certain times, and hats off to Vic. It's been working, especially Alexander Johnson. He's probably his best skill set is coming as a blitzer from that A gap. But I think good, thanks, Terry. But I think that the Broncos in space, especially Josie Jewell, but also Alexander Johnson against those against those running backs and tight ends, Travis Kelce specifically, is probably the thing that makes me the most nervous about this game. I just don't think the Broncos have a guy on their roster that can neutralize those matchups right now.
And man, the tough thing about it is so much of me wants to just say, well, Nick, you've got K-Jack, put K-Jack on him. But why can't you put K-Jack on him? Because you don't want your safety just designated to only the tight end when you've got burners all over the Kansas City Chiefs that can go deep, just like you said. I don't want to see those go routes. I don't want to see guys, but at the same time, I mean, just like Vic Fangio has mixed up some of those blitzes, and I've loved it. I think 4 blitzes is about it. That's all I want to see. I'm personally of the Raider plan right now, where maybe you just run with your 3 defensive linemen. And I know you're a big fan of kind of dropping back the DBs as well, because to think that you're just going to get to Pat Mahomes and he's not going to beat you underneath or over the top is just foolish. The guy he's brilliant. He just now said that he's trying to figure out how to cover defenses. And that's a scary, scary thought, or read the defenses rather. So, for me, man, it's one of those things where I'd like to see 4 blitzes at the most, but can we get some man-to-man coverage in the house? I mean, Michael Ojemudia, dude, I know he's your Iowa guy and they like the zone and he does very well at it, but you know what? I like that he wears 23 because the guy's a freaking athlete. I want to see what he can do and maybe some man. I'm not saying you're going to see the best thing ever, and you're going to see rookie cornerbacks get beat. But to me, I am so impressed with this rookie cornerback and his knowledge of the game, his awareness of the ball, his consistency. I'm waiting for that interception, but can we get some man coverage in the house? Just a little bit, maybe a delayed blitz. We need some creativity on defense as well.
Yeah, I think the thing with man coverage, it's looking at the Chiefs stats and how they win. It's that Travis Kelce is a zone beater and that Tyreek Hill is a man beater. But Tyreek Hill, when he is a man beater, means that it's going to the house. Where Travis Kelce, you're going to get gashed and you're probably going to be bleeding out a little bit, but it's not a clean decapitation move like a Tyreek Hill house call is. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. But we'll see a lot of match quarters also. You know, the Broncos, Vic Fangio, love to do that.
And John, did you hear that in the back there? If we could ever save audio, I want to hear that with the Tyreek Hill as a man beater. That's all. I'm going to leave it there, and everybody else in Broncos country who knows that I hate Hill, you know why. So there we go. We got Kenneth Booker coming up in here. Do you guys see Fant becoming an 8-touchdown, 800-yard guy? Kenneth Booker. Man, I know you are pumped that Noah Fant is back. I am pumped that Noah Fant is back. Nick is pumped that Noah Fant is back. Heck, John is pumped that Noah Fant is back. But I think Nick's a little more pumped than Noah Fant's back because Alberto dropped a couple touchdowns. Now, I was thinking of you, Nick, when he dropped those touchdown passes because I could just feel your anger. And it was much more than mine. I was already mad, and I'm saying, look, man, this kid's coming for Noah. He's coming for Noah in a couple of years. Let's slow down just a little bit. Now, can you agree with me here that maybe there's some flashes of Noah's downfalls with Alberto? There's the potential there, but you saw he wasn't ready. I mean, he's suiting it up and then just going out there, and Drew's looking to him like they're playing schoolyard ball against the Pats. It's not how things are done, but to answer Kenneth Booker's question, I mean, Fant, what role is he going to have in this game against the Chiefs? And is he going to be an 800-yard guy, 8 touchdowns? It's tight ends day the other day, right? So can we celebrate the tight end and Noah Fant?
I definitely think Noah Fant in the future can become an 8-touchdown, 800-yard guy. A lot of it depends on the weapons around him and how heavily what his target share is for you fantasy nerds out there and how good his quarterback is. I mean, if you have a bad quarterback, he's going to struggle a little bit. But I think the biggest thing with Noah Fant that we're going to see this week that's going to help a heck of a lot is that Noah Fant, the stuff that you can do with him in the red zone to create matchups. I mean, especially like Iowa when they had used him a lot, and Denver used it as well. They'd use that play where Fant would be in motion and that linebacker would have to catch him. And to that outs or that nearest pylon, when Fant running sideways, that linebacker half the time can't catch him. I mean, that's an easy touchdown. Just dive in for the sticks. So I think that we're going to see really good red zone production, or not really good, but a big tick in red zone production because of Noah Fant being out there. And maybe as well, I mean, the Chiefs, we're talking about the Broncos linebackers struggling, not having the best athleticism, but Chiefs also do not have great athleticism at the linebacker position. So maybe some 2 tight end sets where you get Alberto and Noah Fant out there. I know you're sacrificing a little bit of blocking there, but I think the key when you go with something like that is that you are putting the Chiefs in a position where either they take off a linebacker for a defensive back, and guess what? That in that case, even if it's Alberto or Noah Fant who aren't dominant inline guys, you have an advantage. Or if they stick in base, throw it on them. Yes. Whichever one's against the worst linebacker or safety, throw it on them. Put them in a position where they have to decide, and you dictate which way you go based on what their decision is. So I think that's a way to go, and I'm really excited to see Noah Fant this season. Both of those guys should continue to improve, but Noah Fant and Alberto together, maybe they do overlap each other's skill sets a little bit. Like if Noah Fant gets hurt for a while, you're going to see a lot of Alberto. But I think given how much, I mean, Alberto looked better than I thought he would week 1. I mean, you can see the talent there. So getting both those guys on the field, that if that's something that you can do to put a team in a position where they are uncomfortable, you got to do it.
I agree. I completely agree. And Nick, we're in it. We're in it here, and Broncos country's letting it rip. Oscar coming in again. Yeah, in hindsight, Vanette signing still makes no sense. Gee, why are you saying that, Oscar? Is it because he's tripping over himself and just not producing? Because that's why we're scratching our heads, wondering why it's taken the Broncos to get Alberto so involved. Now, yes, they're going to say blocking. Well, he's not so good at blocking. Well, you know what? Neither is a lot of the Broncos offensive line, and we're still able to get past that. The problem, as everyone saw with Alberto, I think was the playbook, because to me, it seemed like the playbook was so scripted for when they got into the red zone that it was very one-dimensional part of his game. I mean, until you can really open that up, and Pat Shurmur, former tight ends coach, right? He gets it. He's not going to trust that guy just yet. So, Nick, I got to get at you, though, real quick, because I know you'd love talking running backs. You would draft them all in the first round if you ever had the opportunity. So, running backs, Nick, talk to me real quick, because obviously Melvin Gordon, Philip Lindsay, man, there's been talk about this since Melvin Gordon was signed, right? Was it a good signing? Was it not a good signing? I mean, some people can definitively say yes or no right now, and I'm willing to listen to either argument. But I want to know who's going to be starting at running back for the Denver Broncos. And no, I'm not going to let you give me the PC answer of they're both going to start, like that cute little package we rolled out against the Titans. What do you think is going to happen with Melvin Gordon coming off a DUI, Philip Lindsay putting the team on his back in Foxborough? Talk to me about the running backs and what you expect to see against the Chiefs.
So you're saying I can't say start both of them?
No, you can't start both of them, because you know why? Because Melvin Gordon's strep throat last Friday, okay? strep throat. I'm just going to tell y'all this sometimes, okay? Think about it in terms, and this isn't me hearing anything, but watch what they do, not what they say. And Melvin Gordon back at practice this week, obviously scrubbed out at practice a little bit the week before. I don't think Melvin Gordon starts, Nick. I don't think Melvin Gordon starts. I think he plays, but Philip Lindsay is the starting running back in this game, right, wrong, or indifferent.
The answer is right in front of you, and you just can't see it. Neither start. You're going out there with no running backs, running 0-2 personnel, 3 wide receivers, tight ends, just throw it around the yard. We got Hamler back. Tim Patrick's playing great. Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, Alberto. Running back who? Nah. But honestly, I think that Lindsay's probably going to be the one out of the gate. I think that he's probably the best option first and second down between the 20s, and you get Gordon in there on third down because he's a better pass blocker, because he is a better receiver. And then also in the red zone, you're probably going to lean Gordon as well. I mean, if Gordon's there last week, we're probably talking about one of those being a touchdown, one of those red zone trips ending up a touchdown. So I think that really you got to find where these guys both win, and you can still utilize both of those guys. You're going to use 2 running backs, so I'm not that worried about it. It's just a matter of getting the proper flow and both of those guys taking advantage of when they're out there. It's up to them as much as anything, too. Obviously, there's a little bit of luck, how the play call, how the blocking is in front of them. But, I think you got to go with a hot hand, and those guys' roles, I think, are starting to become a little bit more defined.
I would hope so, because I wrote about it on milehighhuddle.com this last week, and I'm not just tooting my own horn. I am so upset with Philip Lindsay's usage, because anytime you see Drew Lock under center, it's an inside handoff or a counter or a power inside run, and it doesn't work. They know that Philip Lindsay, they're not utilizing him in the passing game at all. I said it on Twitter. I'm going to say it again right now. The narrative last season that Philip Lindsay can't catch. Well, you know what? You're damn right he can't catch when he doesn't get any targets, Nick, in the New England Patriots game. So I'm not saying that he's going to be this burner receiver. I've had my fair share of critiques of Philip Lindsay as well. So I am in no way saying I'm a homer for the Colorado kid and I want to see him get out there just for that storyline. I want to see Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon work in tandem. Now, I got to talk to a Denver Bronco DB that played for Mike Shanahan this last week, and he told me that he would rather prepare against Melvin Gordon. The reason being, Melvin Gordon's that north-south runner. He knows with Melvin Gordon, he has less of a chance getting beaten on a juke in the open space. He would rather play that powerful running back that Melvin Gordon is. And Philip Lindsay presents a lot of different opportunities, Nick, but running inside between the tackles, that was something that he was able to do well because of the offense from last year and the year before. There's no more fullback. Don't bring Andrew Beck in there and say he's your lead blocker or anything like that. Janovich is gone. That style of running is gone. I don't think the Broncos are using Philip Lindsay the right way, and I'm just going to say it. And I don't know why. I don't know if Pat Shurmur and Vic Fangio just, for whatever reason, are a little lukewarm, for lack of a better word, on Philip Lindsay, and they feel like maybe with Melvin Gordon that he's a bigger guy with a little bit more, I don't necessarily want to say prestige to his name, but I don't get it, Nick. Help me out. I mean, are they using Philip Lindsay the right way? I know you don't. Running backs, I get it, man. I'm the same way. I'm right there with you. So when you overvalue running backs, which looks like the Broncos just did, where we're at right now. Talk to me about Philip Lindsay, man. Are they using him the right way, or am I just crazy?
I think that something with Philip Lindsay, especially in the pass game, is that there's like kind of a somewhat awkward transition where if the ball isn't put with good pace, good touch, that he has the transition from receiver to running back is just a little bit clunky. Mm-hmm. And if the ball's not hit to him in time perfectly, and Drew Lock, say what you will about him, but sometimes those balls are not perfectly placed, those short passes. And then, he's tackled behind the line of scrimmage or as soon as he gets the ball because it just takes too long. It's a little bit awkward. Sure. I don't see that as much with Gordon. I think Gordon brings a more diversified skill set overall, but I think Lindsay is the far more explosive runner. So again, between the 20s, first and second down, when you know it's not going to be a run play, that's Philip Lindsay's time to shine, and he might break one. I really love the counters we saw last week. He's really good at the line of scrimmage and kicking it out. I don't know if it's because they can't see him because he's short, or he's so good with that start and stop, the ability to throttle down, or the vision as well, but the ability to kick out and do those things. So again, you can find niches for both those guys. Now we could argue Melvin Gordon, should you pay a running back that much money? It's not like they paid him, Le'Veon Bell money, so to speak, or Todd Gurley money, or a number of those other running backs. So I think there's a little bit of nuance in that conversation. I think you can get value out of both of them. I think you're going to have to use both of them this week. But I think that, again, I wouldn't have paid Gordon, but I think there's plenty of value for both those guys and enough touches to go around where they can all go. Yeah.
I agree with you, Nick. And you know what, though? Charlie figured it out for us. The only fair solution is to start Royce Freeman. Charlie Beagle, I love it, man, because that's a perfect way to kind of wrap into our last segment, man. Royce Freeman, the last thing I want to say about running backs, can we please stop flexing him out on the perimeter as a wide receiver for whatever? I don't get it. What are you doing? I mean, Royce Freeman is, I don't get it. Playing silly little games, quote.
I wouldn't mind doing those silly little games. If I was a offensive coordinator, I'd figure out some sort of motion to do before every single play, because then the defense has to recheck their run fits and everything. So if I was the running back out there or the offensive coordinator, I'd have a running back that's on the boundary and has to motion in and have that linebacker or safety have to readjust, and then maybe have that guy haul ass and then call height quickly when he's reset, just to get a little bit of confusion, and also have the defense tip their hand as far as what type of coverage they're going to be utilizing. So I don't think it's always the worst if you can utilize that motion and put a running back out there in space if it's part of a making the defense show their hand. Now, that said, when he's out there playing wide receiver, that's dumb. I think that's partially because Gordon was out as well. But we'll see what happens. The thing I really want to talk about is, we kind of hinted at it a little bit, but we have not gone full steam ahead, is the amount of guys coming back on the Broncos defense. And we've talked about AJ Boye coming back. I'm really excited about the 3 cornerback sets with Michael Ojemudia, who's playing very good football, AJ Boye, who's still probably the best cornerback on this roster, and Bryce Callahan, who's been playing great. And then also on top of that, you get DeMarcus Walker back, who anybody who's been following me for a while knows that I didn't think DeMarcus Walker was a second-round valuable player. I thought that he was a cleanup sack guy that got just blown up at the point of attack.
Yep.
And if he didn't move the swim move, he was out. And so I was not a big fan of that pick. Really wanted Jack Cunningham, who's I think now a Pro Bowl linebacker.
Is he? He's having success in the league?
He's doing pretty well. But Draymond Jones is back too. So I think that the Broncos, they have had some issues with getting after the passer. I know that some people are excited about Malik Reed, even though going back and watching, I think he's okay, but those sacks that we saw last week were very much schematic and coverage sacks, but we can get away from that. I think getting DeMarcus Walker, who can rush the passer, we'll call it as it is, he can rush the passer, and Draymond Jones back this week are also going to be very big. And if the Broncos want to beat Patrick Mahomes, they're going to have to be able to get pressure without sending the house. And getting specifically Draymond Jones, but also DeMarcus Walker back, I think goes a long way towards creating pressure on Patrick Mahomes. And when you're hitting a guy, I know he's looked pretty infallible so far, but when you're hitting a guy, sometimes they're more likely to make mistakes. And I think that getting those 2 guys back, interior pressure, which I love, that could be a huge turning point for the Broncos.
And when you're hitting a guy in the cold, man, Nick, that sucks. I remember, you remember. I mean, you guys all remember playing. They call them stingers, right? And man, they hurt. They hurt. I can only imagine at the NFL level. I mean, those guys just banging, and they're not going to be wearing sleeves or anything like that. They're crazy, right? Just absolutely crazy. But no, I agree with you, man. You got to try to disrupt them where you can. I wish Las Vegas can have an over-under on Shelby Harris batted down balls, because that, as you were talking about getting pressure and things like that, I'm thinking, man, how awesome, would it be to see Mike Purcell getting in there and just wreaking havoc? But that's just not quite the player he is. He's a consistent stuffer. He owns that line of scrimmage, but he's not the pass rusher that even I think Domata Peko somewhat had a little bit more of a edge to his game on that end. But Nick, when Pat Mahomes, man, I think those batted balls, I'll take those. They're not as good as a sack, but you know what? That's a dead play. And I think that's something that's very realistic. Now, it's silly to hear myself say that. Man, I wonder how many batted balls Shelby Harris is going to have, considering it. Years ago, I would look at myself and think, dude, you're lucky to maybe have 1 out of 2 games. Shelby Harris has been making a career of it. So we are going to have to see. We have some other folks coming in. Chubb and Harris are going to have huge games. Nick,
and I want to touch on this one. Chubb is in this game. He's been playing incredibly well. Now, we do have to say that the both left tackle situations he's gone about in the last 2 games have been injured. Luminor was taken out, and then he beat up on, I can't even remember who, Isaiah Wynn, who's talented, no doubt. That one-arm power move that he used on him was incredible. And then also he beat up on Mekhi Becton, who was like holding his shoulder after every single play. So Jets are a trash organization. I just want to throw that out there. Adam Gase is a trash coach. But I think that we have Mitchell Schwartz out this week. I'm not sure exactly what that means for the Chiefs' right tackle situation. Maybe it's Lucas Niang, who's a rookie who has some talent, but
I liked him.
Plays a little upright. I thought he was a decent right tackle prospect for the future. But I don't see any issue. Typically, you see Bradley Chubb rush the left tackle. I'm putting up against the right tackle this week. I want to put him in the best situation possible. I think edge rushers probably have the least amount of issues switching from side to side. It's not like tackle where the technique is like everything's reversed. It's a little easier for that edge rusher because they do go inside outside so much. So I want to see Bradley Chubb again in a favorable matchup this week, backup right tackle for the Chiefs, get after it and prove that you're back. I mean, he's proven that he's back, but I think Bradley Chubb could be in for a big game, and Mitchell Schwartz being out, I don't think that can be overstated.
Yeah, Mitchell Schwartz, man. It wasn't his brother. Jeff was his brother's name, right? Jeff Schwartz.
Yes, very good Twitter follower.
Yeah, is he a Hall of Famer too?
I think he was just really good for a long time.
Okay, yeah, he's one of those. Yeah, he's one of those linemen, right? That I just consider in the upper echelon. Mark Schlereth, not in the Hall of Fame, but they're
very personable, funny. Married way above their punching class,
and their knowledge of the game is unbelievable. I mean, you look at the way they're able to just, I don't know, assess quarterbacks, wide receivers, and you're thinking from an offensive lineman. But anyway, man, I completely agree with you. Now, here is a worry that I have with that, and I pushed back with it earlier this week. With moving Bradley Chubb, I have some concerns, obviously, with that ACL that has been surgically repaired twice. Because for whatever reason, I know Bradley Chubb is definitely warming up, and he said he's back in the Jets, with an expletive in there, and I loved the enthusiasm, and Broncos country feels like he's back as well. I don't. I think he has a little bit of hesitation still. I just don't know. I'm not seeing the full trust on that leg just yet. I think he's gaining confidence in it. And I don't know if you move him permanently just to lock down that one side to go against the backup, if that's going to mess with his mentality of rushing the passer. Just because, man, when you're a beast like Bradley Chubb and you carry your weight lean, mean, and strong, and that ACL has been surgically repaired twice, you're going to have a little bit of hesitation in every game. I mean, it's just one of those things when it's your recovery year and he's back on the field already. Do you have any concerns with that ACL if he moved sides?
That's a good point. I guess it comes down to which is his foot that he's pushing off of to start. And if he's worried about it being that other foot on the other side, that's something that you'd have to ask him and the trainer how they feel about that. But just of a pure matchup, assuming Chubb is playing healthy,
get him some reps
right
there.
Tackle. And it is Mike Remmers. I think Chase said put Remmers on the put Chubb on Remmers' side. So Mike Remmers actually is somebody that I advocated for the Broncos to sign multiple times because he was a league average tackle and guard, and they probably would have been better off going that way rather than Elijah Wilkinson out of the gate. But here we are. We still got beyond Wilkinson. So although I do wish him a speedy recovery because I trust him more than Jake Rogers. But that being said, I definitely think that's something that is worth monitoring. And I'm curious to see if the Broncos are going to flip those guys. And also you're talking about Bradley Chubb coming back, being full confidence. I think that those first couple of weeks, we could say that, but the last few weeks, he's looked so good. And that's despite other teams scheming against him. The other teams right now, from what I can see, do not respect whatever edge rusher is on the other side of Bradley Chubb. A lot of one-on-ones. And if they win, so be it. We're leaving him on an island. Chubb's getting chipped. Chubb's getting double teamed, and he's winning. Granted, again, left tackles have been hurt the last 2 weeks, but still, I think that this is a conversation for the future, given that Von Miller might be moving on, might have to talk edge rushers. Yes. But I think Bradley Chubb is definitely the alpha right now. Shelby Harris is probably playing as good as anybody, but Chubb is the guy who teams are scheming against, and that says a lot. I think back or not, he's making a heck of an impact, and he's playing like one of the better edge rushers in football right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And man, I just got to laugh when I see this.
I know.
The crazy Based Gaze coming in with the super chat. Thank you so much. I love the picture. How confident are you that we score over 40? It's the only way we beat the Chiefs. You got to fight fire with fire. Well, you know what, Nick? I initially roll my eyes at this, and then I think about John Elway. And Based Gaze is exactly right. He went in the draft saying you got to fight fire with fire. I'm going to go get some speed. Some of that speed is going to be on the field with KJ Hamler. He is back, and I am hoping to see a big game from the young fella. So if you're the Go ahead.
KJ, is this crazy to say? I know that we haven't seen him very much, but I think KJ Hamler's game against Pittsburgh is the best rookie wide receiver game so far this year.
You bet.
I think he could have been better than Judy. And Judy last week, again, talking about Bill Belichick or scheming stuff, the Patriots schemed out Jerry Jeudy. Very much so. They were respecting Jerry Jeudy. But I think that week 2 game with KJ Hamler was as good as any rookie wide receiver performance we've seen for the Broncos this year.
I agree with you. And I think Jeudy is a little hesitant right now, and I don't know why. I'm wondering if maybe he's a little surprised. He's a very confident receiver and was the best receiver in the draft class on my board, and I know he was on your board as well, right?
I had Henry Ruggs number 1.
Well, you're a Raider fan, so there you go. But no, I kid. But no, going over 40 to get back to the super chat real quick. I don't think the chances are good at all. The Broncos could not score an offensive touchdown against New England, guys. Okay, that doesn't make me a hater. None of that stuff. That's just a fact. Brandon McManus, coming off special teams player of the week, all that stuff. I picked him up in my fantasy league. Maybe y'all should too. It's a field goal game. Blah blah blah.
Why was he available?
Yeah, why was he available? Right, I know it. But going 40 points. If that's the plan, you're gonna lose. I'm telling you right now, if that's the plan, you're going to lose. If you're going to beat the Chiefs, you're not going to beat them on the offensive side of the ball. You're going to beat them on the defensive side of the ball. This is where you have to have turnovers. To pick off Patrick Mahomes, I understand that is asking a whole hell of a lot. But you know what? Fumbles in the wet weather, in the snow, in the cold, guys get punched, guys get, beaten up, all those other things, and the ball squirts out. You do have a rookie running back there. Now, on the other side of that, Nick, the ball squirts out. Philip Lindsay doesn't fumble. Melvin Gordon fumbles, and that's a problem for me right there.
If Lindsay fumbles this week, everybody at Luke on Twitter and say you cursed him, at Luke Patterson LP. Talking in.
Hey, please do. Please do. I'll double down on that and say that Philip Lindsay will not fumble in the next 3 games. So go ahead and get mad. That's right. Only a Sith. And get at me at Luke Patterson LP. Get at Nick Kendell at Nick Kendell MHH. MileHighHuddle.com, where we have so much work and so much content. Check out Nick's other show with Carl Dumler, Building the Broncos, on Tuesday nights, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And give us those little likes and thumbs up. And guys, be sure to check out our podcasts, all of them. Huddle Up, Dove Valley Deep Divers. John does a great job with all those other shows. So as we just wrap up some final thoughts, let's get into predictions. Nick, I want to know how you're seeing this game. I read your official pick. I want to know, based on the news that you heard today of Bosby, or maybe you have a funny spine-tingling feeling that you maybe want to change it or add something in. This is it, man. This is your last chance. We are the last show before the game. I want to hear that prediction. Give it to me right now. Tell Broncos country, is the streak over?
Well, the Broncos will continue their trend this year of being one of the best teams covering the spread. Good teams win, great teams cover, but I think the Broncos end up losing this week in a close game, 28-27. I think that it could go either way, and that's careful. Don't get that mad.
I'm getting excited. I'm getting excited. I'm punching my mic, but you're telling me a 1-point game. The Broncos stayed with the Chiefs, and it's a 1-point game.
1-point game, and wow. I think again, moral victories are for teams that aren't in Super Bowl contention. But that's kind of where the Broncos are right now. I think they're going to have it's going to be a good game. I think they're going to lose just barely, but I think there's going to be a lot of positives coming out of this game where we can look forward and say and point to, hey, the Broncos lost that game, but they got a real confidence boost because they knew they could go head to head with the Chiefs. And that kicks off the second half of the season. I think they put on a butt whooping on the Chargers then. And we're flying high going forward into the rest of the season. So I think that they are going to lose. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Broncos are going to give the Chiefs everything they can handle, just not enough in the end.
I have never picked the Denver Broncos to win a football game this year. And I am so sorry to tell you, the Chiefs are no longer beating the Broncos tomorrow, folks. The streak is over. It's happening. Brandon McManus, the leg, is going to win this game for the Denver Broncos. Call me crazy, but I've got a funny feeling. Maybe it's all the Halloween decorations and the eeriness outside, Nick. I don't know what it is, man. But Charlie Beagle coming in here, 39-35. Broncos on 13 BMAC field goals. I'll take it, Charlie. I will take it. here's the thing, man. The Broncos, they don't have anything to lose. They have nothing to lose. They're beat up. They've got all kinds of money sitting on the bench. Ryan Jamal coming in here saying, we're going to shock the world, 27-24. Yes, Luke. You know what, Ryan? I like your score, and that's what I have in my pick'em as well. 27-24, the Denver Broncos beat the Chiefs on their home turf. I'm not saying it's going to turn the season around, but you know what? 2 wins on the road, that hasn't happened in a while. Maybe it's time to finally put the Chiefs to bed, at least for one game. Holden Adams coming in here, 31-28 with the game winner. McMoney.
Man, well, speaking about McMoney, we got to Mick get out of here. The worst transition of all time. But guys, that's got to do it for our show today. You can find Luke on Twitter at Luke Patterson LP and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Make sure you head on over to Mile High Huddle, which is an affiliate of Sports Illustrated. Also, guys, go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. On YouTube, like, subscribe, and share. On Facebook, click those thumbs up, click the heart emoji. All of that can really help us reach new Denver Bronco fans and bring this content to them. And it's a huge support to us. You can follow us on Twitter at Mile High Huddle and at MHI Football Pod. For Luke, I'm Nick, wrapping up another episode of the Mile High Insiders. Luke, got any plans the rest of the night?
Yeah, I'm going to go talk terrible things about the Chiefs with my neighbors for the rest of the night. So since Tim Patrick couldn't do it, I'm going to do it for him and just curse out the Chiefs. I'm done with it, man. They can be beat. Fear no man. Otherwise, why are you stepping on the field? I absolutely love Tim Patrick. I think he's going to have another career game tomorrow against the Chiefs. And always believe in that Mile High magic, baby. We got this, Broncos country. Let's ride.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to go drown my sorrows for an Iowa loss today at Purdue, and I have a bottle of whiskey waiting.
You'll feel much better. You'll feel much better tomorrow night, brother. You'll be celebrating. Trust me. It'll be a rough Monday morning, but you will be happy.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate everyone stopping by. We love y'all. Stay safe, and as always, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.
You've been listening to the Huddle Up Podcast. Join Broncos Country's deep divers at milehighhuddle.com to keep the conversation going.